Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. You made a comment about having 4 years to kind of get these habits in with them, but then changed it quickly to, well, maybe 1 year. To that point, and I'm not coach, I don't want to go into portal because I feel like every time I mention portal with a college coach is just kind of like that's not what the talk is about. But culture, now that you do have guys where it really is, I know I have them for this year, like I have them right now. Do you feel the need to spend maybe as much time in that as you would in the past? Or, is it, I hate to say that it's less important, but there's so many things, coach, you got to do in a year. Like I remember we would get transfers in and they'd have to sit out a year. And I always felt like when they would come back from that, they wouldn't be the same player. They'd be a little rusty, but also it would take them another year to really fit the system. That's just on the court. But now we're talking about with culture. Is it still that important? More important, or how do you feel like it lands now?
Well, I think it's different in different places. So I'm just gonna give you my take on it.
Sure.
Right. So quick background. The school I came from in my last 10 years before I came to Midwestern State, I think I had about only 2 players who didn't redshirt over the course of that 10 years. I always took high school kids, redshirted them, built them up, developed them kind of in the system in how we did it. And you had this kind of 4-year curriculum and 5-year curriculum, and we would sprinkle in some transfers.
Yeah.
Well, that was my model when I came here to Midwestern State, wanted to recruit the Metroplex. I mean, I think it's the best high school basketball in the country, get high school kids, and that's, the administration loved it because those kids are going to graduate, be successful. And then COVID hit. Then the transfer rules changed, and everything has changed in the last couple of years. And so there's been a lot of challenges with how I like to do it and how I like to build it. I've been having to adjust a lot, and I think that is kind of where I'm landing now. Had a really good recruiting class this last year. We have a fantastic group returning this next season, and we're in the midst of recruiting heavily right now. And what I'm doing is really twofold for this culture piece. Number one, really trying to do our legwork in advance of bringing kids to campus for visits, talking to their parents, coaches. A lot of them are kids that we've seen from high school, and just getting to know who they are a little bit, if they're our type of guy or not. And then secondarily, we get them to campus. And this is probably there's kind of 2 main components once they get to campus that lay the foundation and build our culture. The first is when they're recruiting. We had a visit yesterday. Every single returning player on the roster, I mean, we had 8 different guys, spent time with this player and his family, just sharing who we are. A lot of times on these visits, says one thing, and then, maybe 1 or 2 players get to talk to him and keep everybody else.
The ones you trust. Yeah, I was that
exactly
guy, coach. I was that guy.
Right. And so, by the end, they realize like they're hearing a unified message.
Yeah.
They also get to get a feel for the type of young man that is in this program. How they can articulate their thoughts, how they can share their journey and the vision for the program and what we're all doing. And usually what happens with the parents is it starts to make sense why we're recruiting their son, because they're realizing like, no, this is a really good group of young men that exhibit many of the character traits that obviously they're very proud of with their own children, that they would want their child to associate with. But it also gives our players a lot of skin in the game. They've got to be, like now when that player comes to campus, everything that they've said, well, that's where the relationship started.
Yeah.
Right? And we have former players that'll continue to pour into and invest in, the lives of these newer recruits and players in the program. So that's one really, big piece, like on the front end, is having the players buy into letting the new guys into what the culture is, like from them, not from me. Right.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, the next thing is we're about the work. We're a process oriented program. That's skill development daily. Okay. Weight room daily. All right. And that's something that has really been important for these guys to learn how to hold each other accountable. And accountability isn't blame. All right. Accountability is shared responsibility.
Yeah.
That they walk through that together. And ultimately what happens, over the course of that time is it's monotonous, right? It's day in, day out work. We try to make it fun. And really the way we make it fun is by having just the opportunity to go in each day and just spend that time in the gym where we love to be.
Coach, I love that. What a great approach to figuring out not just the players, if you want them, but what do your own players think? And that's my thought of co-creators of the culture. Because I was trying to, how do you do that in college? Like in high school, I can bring guys in and, we can talk about different pillars but from their freshman through senior year, you kind of get to see them a lot more on a daily basis. But in college, how do you do that? And you're right on the money. Like when they are the ones teaching, promoting, selling the culture, man, I got to imagine the ownership that they feel in the program. It just skyrockets. That's great.
Yeah. Well, like I say, we're trying. And then the other reality too in that process is, I want to recruit guys that I enjoy being around. Honestly, I mean, we spend too much time together to not enjoy each other's company, and as a result, I'm terribly proud of the young men that we have in the program. So any opportunity you have to highlight them, I've found that there just always pays wonderful dividends.
Coach, I love that you said that because I feel like that's a part of a player's journey that isn't talked about a lot. Like parents are very vocal about whether they like playing for somebody.
Sure.
I like playing for him. Golly, it was hard to play for him. Hard. Rarely, though, do we talk about what about the coach? Do we like coaching you? But but there is a part of that relationship. And that's the thing. I think when you're about relationship building, you do talk about that with each other. What are habits of players? Man, TJ Rosine at Emmanuel talked about favorites and how that word favorites gets a bad rap, but it's everybody's right to be a favorite. And it's important for you as a player to know what a favorite looks like. A favorite isn't a brown noser. A favorite isn't somebody that's just kissing butt all the time. A favorite is the person that does what coach is asking to be done, that lives out the culture. And so I think like that idea for players, especially maybe now with how it is more about your brand and all those things, like be a player that coaches, that your coach loves to be around. I don't know. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, anyone says we don't have favorites is is painfully mistaken.
But again, I guess just making that word more acceptable,
Sure.
and that's where I love what TJ said is everybody's right to be a favorite. But I think that's a necessary conversation to have with our teams is fellas, like these are the standards that we've set. And the guys that I love to be around are the ones that live up to those standards. You can say it without using the word favorites, but
Sure.
I would imagine you with the way that your players are co-creators of the culture and they're almost protecting it. That's a cool idea is they almost feel like what if your player comes to you and says, Coach, I don't know about this kid. Like here's some things that were said. I don't know if he fits in really with what we do. I mean, how do you take that from them?
Well, that has absolutely happened. That has absolutely happened over my career, where you bring a kid in and they get the time with the players, especially on like an overnight visit. When they'll get the time with a host on campus, and then I usually make a habit of the morning after those, of having breakfast with whoever the hosts were or whoever
Mm,
interacted with them. Just, hey, tell me about them. Are they going to fit in? What types of questions were they asking?
yeah.
You can learn a lot, and ultimately, I mean, you got to trust your players in those situations, right? That is absolutely absolutely a component of the process, is getting their feedback, because they're going to be in it with them. Is this someone you
Yeah.
want to trust in that locker room? That locker room is a sacred place, and we have to protect it. We have to value it, and the players need to have that shared ownership, in doing their part in vetting these recruits and making sure that they're someone that we want to allow in.
I don't know why I just thought of the movie The Miracle, where he brings that really skilled player on and is like making all the other guys kind of sweat a little bit. And he didn't ask what the players thought, but the players had a sense of, togetherness with their
Uh-huh.
team strong enough that they thought that this guy was going to come in and kind of rock that. And in fact, they said, we're a family. And he says, well, this guy will help us win. And he said, but they kind of convinced him. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but there's the idea of, if we can get our players to care enough about our program, to protect it, to value it high enough, not just keep good players away. Like, this dude's going to start over me. Coach, he's no good. He's a horrible. No, but really take a sense of it. Will this guy add value to us, not just on the floor, but off?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's just all part of the process, walking through that together with these guys.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.